Honorable Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Justice Rajiv Shakdar, Chairman of the IT Committee, Justice Sanjeev Sachdeva, Justice Talwant Singh, Justice Sanjeev Narula, Mr. Mohit Mathur, President of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, all my very distinguished and esteemed colleagues who are judges of the High Court, senior advocates, members of the registry, and all the dignitaries present here. I'm delighted to be present here this evening to inaugurate the latest online e-inspection software. It is heartening to see familiar faces from the bench and the bar who have joined us today, both virtually as well as physically in the auditorium. Just last month, I had the honor of visiting and inaugurating the S block of the High Court in this auditorium. The continued support of the members of the Delhi Bar Association is essential for the success of such initiatives. In a sense, today's inaugural completes the digitization loop. The Delhi High Court has been at the forefront on e-filing, on digitization, on virtual courts, and now to provide for inspection of the digitized records completes the entire circle, so to speak. In many ways, I believe that though we lay down law for the whole country, the Delhi High Court is way ahead of the Supreme Court in the facilities which are provided, not just to the judges, but to lawyers and to the litigants as well. So we generally tend to follow the Delhi High Court, not the least of the reason for which is that we have such a strong contention to the Delhi High Court in the Supreme Court at all times, and justifiably so. So we have been following the Delhi High Court in many ways. I was in touch with Justice Rajiv Shakdar when the Delhi High Court implemented the neutral citations. I said, why don't we now expand this to the rest of the country? Why should this only be confined only to the Delhi High Court? So Kerala has done it, various other high courts have done it, and now the Supreme Court is on the anvil of having neutral citations. But the great danger of replicating what the Delhi High Court is doing is that we might be accused of intellectual piracy in the Supreme Court. So I thought to obviate this criticism that, we are pirating on what is being done by the dynamic judges of the Delhi High Court, I can borrow the intellectual capital of the Delhi High Court into the Supreme Court. So then I've constituted this committee called the Monitoring and Implementation Committee as part of the E-Committee of the Supreme Court to shoulder part of my burden in the E-Committee, consisting of Justice Rajiv Shakdar. Then we have Justice Raja Vijayaraghavan from the Kerala High Court, Justice Suraj Govindraj from the Karnataka High Court, and Justice Anup Chitkara from the Punjab and Haryana High Court. Because I thought that, we must pass on the baton to the younger generation and create administrative skills, the capacity for learning, the capacity for understanding India beyond the confines of our own high courts. So before I deal with what we are here for today, I must share with you that this is part of my mission, that our work in the Supreme Court must also be facilitative to creating a new band of judges who will be looking for the future of the Indian judiciary. And what better way to equip our young judges for the future of the nation and of our judiciary than to really get them involved in national projects which we are doing. So instead of holding these projects close to our heart in the Supreme Court, I think the important need of the hour is for us to open up to new ideas. And I dare say the ideas which we get from the younger judges of the high courts are just mind-boggling. Very often I get WhatsApps which I tend to read on long flights when there's not much of file work and other things to be done. And the kind of input which I get from younger judges of the high courts from across India really is a cause for great optimism for the future of the Indian judiciary. So much for what work has been going on that end. The judiciary has the unenviable task of delivering justice in a period of both challenges and groundbreaking opportunities. The IT revolution constitutes a resource which has changed the way we work together and envisage the justice delivery mechanism. Technological innovations by the judicial system should be designed to meet the needs of all its users, judges, court staff, lawyers, litigants, self-represented litigants, community leaders, researchers, and the public at large. The Delhi High Court has been at the forefront of modernizing courts in the country through the role of information technology. In fact, the first paperless court in the country was established in Delhi itself back in 2009. All the courts of Delhi High Court can now function as e-courts and have been conducting their court proceedings through video conferencing, in addition to physical hearings from time to time. Your initiatives such as online e-filing, web links dedicated to mentioning of urgent matters, digitized case records, video conferencing, have enhanced the robustness of a sustainable future court system prevailing in the Delhi High Court. Technology has become a powerful tool in the legal system, improving efficiency, accessibility, and accuracy in the administration of justice. However, the success of any initiative and innovation, whether in law or in technology, depends on the ability to collaborate with stakeholders and incorporate critical feedback of those who will be using it. The Supreme Court had recently organized a pilot hackathon to explore practical propositions for bringing in efficiency in the existing process, from filing to listing of judicial matters, and in the process facilitate participatory design. I had requested my distinguished colleague, Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, to preside over the hackathon, and we got some remarkable input from lawyers, from law clerks, from our registry staff. The idea was to have a limited hackathon to start with because we were implementing this for the first time. The next step is for the Supreme Court to organize Hackathon 2.0, which will be open for everyone to participate. So we will have talent from across the country responding to what should be done to make a modern court system truly efficient. These kinds of feedback loops enable us to continuously improve technology to better serve the administration of justice. An agile approach to piloting and implementing new e-services, which involves a willingness to test, to take feedback, adapt and change, would go a long way. Helpful feedback from the community allowed the IT committee of the Delhi High Court to address specific needs of judicial officials, court staff, and legal professionals, and issues that arose during the implementation of the former e-inspection software. The e-inspection software that we are inaugurating today has been redeveloped to allow its use not only by officers of the inspection branches, but also by advocates and litigants, which is crucial, because we then take our services to the doors and homes of litigants and all the advocates who are crucial stakeholders in the system. Earlier, young members of the bar had to wait for hours at a stretch to inspect files and have access to the court records. We all remember our early days. This newly inaugurated software allows for an instant electronic review of court documents, making the process more efficient and convenient. Once an e-application is found to be suitable, the entire court record along with office notings is instantly shared via email in a searchable PDF format. Inspection can now happen from any location, saving time and reducing unnecessary burden on alamads and the officer in charge of record rooms. Online e-inspection software is a step in the right direction of a sustainable transformation of our justice delivery system. The next step would be taking this initiative forward and implementing it in all the high courts, the Supreme Court, and most critically, the district courts. The district judiciary plays a crucial role in ensuring access to justice for citizens at the grassroots. E-inspection of judicial records at the district level would reduce our dependence on physical document handling and would allow us to move beyond the constraints of space. It is essential to ensure that such online services are compatible with most used browsers, screen reading software, that they can be operated with ease on mobiles or devices with a low bandwidth, and most importantly, they do not contribute to the digital divide. We must ensure that the principles of procedural and substantive fairness, due process, transparency, and equal access are made integral to the process of adoption of new technologies. Just to share with you in less than 2 or 3 minutes some of the new initiatives which I've adopted since the 9th of November as part of our technology mission. We have a new Justice mobile app, a mobile app which has access to information first and foremost to advocates on record, to journalists, to litigants, to government departments, to every stakeholder of the system. So the idea is to provide through the Justice mobile app, which is now freely circulated by the Supreme Court and by the E-Committee, free access to the entirety of the record and to information about cases which are filed in the court. The second thing which I was really working on for the last 6.5 years, but quite unsuccessfully, was that we have judgments since 1950 in the physical form, namely the Supreme Court reports, which constitute the official reports of the Supreme Court. But these reports were available only in a paper form, which meant that any young lawyer who has to have access to online case reports had to access private software. So over the last 2 months, we have got the Supreme Court reports transformed into the eSCR, which I would really request the members of the Delhi Bar Association, and particularly in the younger junior lawyers, to freely utilize. The next step for us to use the neutral citations as part of the eSCR. The eSCR has an elastic search facility. So not only have we converted our paper files into digitized files, PDF files, but we have also made them compatible with a search engine through which you can search for case records of decided cases. As I said shortly before, the third important initiative is to have neutral citations. I had constituted a committee chaired by Justice Rajiv Shagdar, and the committee has given us the source code as well as a report on having neutral citations all across India. And I've already written to the Chief Justices of the High Courts so that neutral citations can now be provided by High Courts across India. Some of my colleagues asked me, what is the value of neutral citations? Neutral citations really ensure that irrespective of the law report which you use, there will be one format for the citation of all judgments of the High Courts and the Supreme Court across India in all judgments. We have launched an RTI online portal in the Supreme Court. I would request every High Court, including the Delhi High Court, to have its own online RTI portal so that we make the process of disclosure of information about our court under the Right to Information Act streamlined and accessible. A very interesting initiative which we adopted recently was to provide for electronic filing of appearance slips in the Supreme Court. The courtmasters used to handle a large number of papers every morning of slips being handed over for recording appearances. And there would be errors. The lawyers would come back with applications for correcting the orders because there was an error in writing down or typing down the appearance slips. So this is all obviated because the lawyers, through a simple process of an online portal, communicate the appearances, which are directly transcribed into judicial orders. We are on the anvil of shortly launching the e-filing software. We had an e-filing software of sorts, but it has been substantially upgraded. It is in the process of now completing the security audit, and we are on the anvil of now launching e-filing in the Supreme Court. Another very important initiative which we have adopted recently is our initiative for translation of the judgments of the Supreme Court in regional languages. Because we must understand that the language which we use, namely English, is a language which is not comprehensible, particularly in its legal avatar, to 99.9% of our citizens. In which case, really, access to justice cannot be meaningful unless citizens are able to access and understand in a language which they speak and comprehend the judgments which we deliver, whether in the High Courts or in the Supreme Court. I've constituted a committee chaired by Justice Abhay Oka, a very dynamic judge of the Supreme Court on all aspects of the administration. And the first step which we have taken is to ensure that Supreme Court judgments will be now translated in at least 4 languages, to start with Hindi, Tamil, Gujarati, and Oriya. Now, our mission really for this is that every High Court should have a committee of 2 judges, one of whom should be a judge who is drawn from the district judiciary because of their sheer width of experience. Most of them have written judgments in those languages. I know, for instance, in the state of Uttar Pradesh, where I was the Chief Justice for 3 years, the judges wrote their judgments in Hindi. Likewise, in various other states, this also takes place. So our idea is now that the High Courts will also appoint their own retired judicial officers, apart from their own translators, for verifying the machine translation of the Supreme Court judgments. We are in the process. There's a software called Suvas, which has been developed. There are two very distinguished professionals, Professor Mitesh Khapra of IIT Madras and Dr. Vikram Raghavan, who have been collaborating with the Supreme Court, together with Ms. Sharmishta Dasgupta, the Deputy Director General of the National Informatics Center. And together, we are now creating a team whereby they will use machine learning for the translation of Supreme Court judgments in various Indian languages. But machine learning still requires verification. As you know, even when you digitize files, the quality of the digitized file has to be certified by our own officers. So we are now tapping into the talent of retired judicial officers who will be paid by the Supreme Court from out of its own resources for the work which they can do even sitting at home. They don't have to come to the precincts of the High Court to verify whether the translation has been done correctly. Because you need this verification. For instance, we begin almost every judgment where we are making a civil appeal out of a special leave petition by saying leave granted. Now, if you were to translate leave granted directly into Hindi, the translation would be Avkash Prapt Ho Gaya. Now you don't want a citizen to be told that, the first sentence in your judgment is Avkash Prapt Ho Gaya, but you have to therefore ensure that the translation which is done by the machine actually accords with our understanding of the translation. We have a monitoring and implementing committee in the E-Committee of the Supreme Court, which is in place. And Justice Shagdar spoke about it. I spoke about it a short while ago. And I do believe that the Monitoring and Implementing Committee will now take this mission of what is happening in some of the high courts which are ahead of the learning curve. Delhi is ahead of the learning curve. There are other high courts like Kerala is certainly way ahead of the learning curve. You have Madhya Pradesh, which has been doing some remarkable work. You've got other high courts also which are doing some great work. Karnataka is ahead of the learning curve. But what is being done by these high courts should not remain in a silo within our own courts. And this must spread to the rest of the country as well. So the idea of setting up this monitoring and implementing committee, apart from giving a national platform for young judges, and I do believe, notwithstanding what Justice Shagdar said, that you are at least young at heart, if not young in age as well, is to give a platform for our judges to sort of create a national tool, a national platform for sharing and allowing other high courts to learn from our experiences. Well, I congratulate each and every member of the IT committee of the Delhi High Court and the court officers whose hard work and dedication to the cause of harnessing technology have made events like this evening possible. Visiting the high courts to support and encourage such important initiatives taken by the officers is something which I hold close to my heart. I'm eagerly looking forward to see how technological innovations by the Delhi High Court continue to make it easier for citizens to navigate the legal system. And before I conclude, I must share with you a decision which we just took a short while ago, which was why I was late by 5 minutes. I was in a conversation with the Building Committee of the Supreme Court. Me and Justice Kaul sat with the Building Committee, consisting of Justice Sanjeev Khanna, Justice Bhushan Gavai, Justice Suryakant, Justice Nagaratna, Justice Vikram Nath, I mentioned his name. And we were wondering about how to now think of the Supreme Court of India and its facilities, say, for the next 50 years. Because somebody has to do it sometime. The work has to be initiated by someone. It will be completed, of course, way beyond our times. Your building here took almost 8 years to see reality. But the first decision which we took is that next Monday, and I just took the permission of the Chief Justice, Justice Satish Sharma, that next Monday, the Building Committee, accompanied by me and by the loyal 2 judges of the Supreme Court who are former judges of the Delhi High Court, shall troop into the precincts of the Delhi High Court next Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. We are going to examine the new courtrooms, see your new parking lot, which I believe the lawyers are not using too much. I wonder why. And then try and replicate some of these initiatives for the Supreme Court. So I would only request the Delhi High Court, please continue to do what you are doing. You're being watched and followed as well. Thank you very much.